Muhammad Ali opened the door of his hotel room in New York City at 11:47 p.m. on February 20th, 1965, and found Malcolm X standing in the hallway. Malcolm looked tired, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. His eyes carried the weight of a man who knew something terrible was coming. A man who'd seen his own death approaching and had made peace with it. Before we continue with the story, you can support us by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are. Let's continue. Malcolm, Ali said, surprised. They hadn't spoken in months. Not since the split. Not since Ali had chosen Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam over Malcolm. Not since their friendship, their brotherhood, had been destroyed by forces bigger than both of them. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," Malcolm said quietly. "Can I come in?" Ali hesitated. He wasn't supposed to talk to Malcolm anymore. The nation had made that clear. Malcolm was a traitor, they said, an enemy. Anyone who associated with him was suspect. But something in Malcolm's face, something desperate and final, made Ali step aside. "Come in," Ali said. "But I can't." "I know," Malcolm interrupted. "I know you can't be seen with me. I know what they've told you. But this can't wait. I need to tell you something. Tonight. Right now. Before it's too late." Malcolm X walked into that hotel room, knowing he had less than 14 hours to live. The next day, February 21st, 1965, at 3:10 p.m., he would be shot 15 times at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. He would die on stage in front of his wife and children. And the men who pulled the triggers would be connected to the same organization that Muhammad Ali had chosen over Malcolm. But in that moment, at midnight on February 20th, Malcolm X wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about the young man standing in front of him, Cassius Clay. Now, Muhammad Ali, only 23 years old, the heavyweight champion of the world. A kid Malcolm had mentored, guided, taught about Islam and black pride and manhood. A kid who'd become like a little brother to him. And Malcolm had come to say goodbye, to warn Ali about the danger he couldn't yet see, to try one last time to protect someone he loved, even though that person had abandoned him when he needed support most. What happened in that hotel room over the next 2 hours would haunt Muhammad Ali for the rest of his life. Because Malcolm X told him things that night, prophecies, warnings, truths, that all came true. And Ali, young and naive and loyal to the wrong people, didn't listen, couldn't listen, wouldn't listen, until the next afternoon, when Malcolm X's blood stained the stage of the Audubon Ballroom. And Muhammad Ali realized, too late, that everything Malcolm had said was true. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand how Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali's relationship began and how it ended. They met in 1962. Cassius Clay was 20 years old, brash, talented, rising through the boxing ranks. Malcolm X was 37, the most powerful minister in the Nation of Islam, a brilliant speaker who was converting thousands to Islam's message. They met in Detroit, introduced by mutual friends, and the connection was instant. Malcolm saw something in young Cassius, a purity, an intelligence, a hunger for meaning beyond boxing. And Cassius saw in Malcolm everything he wanted to be, confident, articulate, fearless, proud of his blackness in a way that made being black feel powerful instead of shameful. "Malcolm was like a big brother to me," Ali would say decades later. "Everything I learned about being a black man, about being Muslim, about standing up for myself, Malcolm taught me that." For 2 years, they were inseparable. Malcolm brought Cassius into the Nation of Islam, taught him the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, attended his training camps. When Cassius fought Sonny Liston in 1964, the biggest fight of his life, Malcolm was there, supporting him, believing in him. And after Cassius shocked the world by beating Liston, Malcolm was there when the new champion announced his conversion to Islam and his new name, Muhammad Ali. But then everything fell apart. Malcolm X began to see cracks in the Nation of Islam. He discovered that Elijah Muhammad, the leader Malcolm had devoted his life to, had been having affairs with young secretaries, fathering children out of wedlock, violating every principle he preached. Malcolm was devastated, his entire worldview shattered. In 1964, Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam. He started his own organization. He spoke out about the corruption he discovered, and he became, in the nation's eyes, a traitor who had to be destroyed. The nation demanded that all members cut ties with Malcolm. Anyone who stayed friendly with him would be expelled, considered an enemy. And Muhammad Ali, young, impressionable, deeply committed to his new faith, faced an impossible choice. Malcolm X, his mentor and friend, or the Nation of Islam, his religious community and identity. Ali chose the nation, chose Elijah Muhammad over Malcolm X. And when Malcolm needed support most, when death threats were pouring in, when a nation was actively trying to kill him, Ali publicly rejected him. In a 1965 interview, just weeks before Malcolm's death, Ali said, "Malcolm is my friend and I love him. But I think he's gone too far. He's making a mistake turning against Elijah Muhammad." And then, more cutting, "I don't want to talk about Malcolm anymore. He's outside the fold of Islam." Those words, "outside the fold," destroyed Malcolm, because they came from the young man he'd mentored, the brother he'd loved, the fighter he'd helped become champion. Ali's rejection wasn't just personal. It was a public declaration that Malcolm deserved his fate. But on the night of February 20th, 1965, Malcolm X came to Ali's hotel room anyway. Because love doesn't die just because it's been betrayed. And Malcolm knew that even if Ali wouldn't help him, he could still try to help Ali. One last time, before it was too late, Malcolm X sat in a chair in Ali's hotel room. Ali remained standing, uncomfortable, knowing he shouldn't be having this conversation. If the nation found out Malcolm had visited, there would be consequences. "Why are you here, Malcolm?" Ali asked, his voice careful, guarded. "To say goodbye," Malcolm said simply. "And to warn you." "Goodbye? Where are you going?" "I'm not going anywhere. But tomorrow," Malcolm paused, chose his words carefully. "Tomorrow something's going to happen. Something they've been planning for months. And I want you to understand something before it does." Ali felt cold. "What are you talking about?" "They're going to kill me, Muhammad." Malcolm's voice was calm, matter of fact. Not afraid. Just stating reality. The nation. Elijah Muhammad's people. They've been following me, threatening me, burning my house. It's not a question of if anymore. It's when. And I think when is tomorrow. "Malcolm, that's crazy. Brother Minister doesn't." "Yes, he does." Malcolm's voice was sharp now. "And you need to stop lying to yourself about who these people are. I know you think the nation saved you, gave you identity, purpose, community. But Muhammad, it's a cult. And Elijah Muhammad is a fraud, a hypocrite, a man who preaches purity while sleeping with teenagers." Ali's face hardened. "Don't talk about the messenger like that." "I have to, because you need to hear it, before they destroy you too." Malcolm leaned forward. "Muhammad, listen to me. Right now, you're valuable to them. You're the heavyweight champion. You're famous. You bring attention and money to the nation. So they love you, protect you, tell you how special you are." "I am special," Ali said defensively. "You are, but not to them. To them, you're a tool. And the moment you're not useful, the moment you question them, or refuse an order, or threaten their control, you'll become what I am, an enemy, and they'll destroy you without hesitation. You're just bitter because you left. I left because I discovered the truth." Malcolm's voice rose, then dropped back to calm. "Muhammad, I love the nation. I gave them 20 years of my life. I recruited thousands of people. I built temples. I defended Elijah Muhammad when nobody knew his name. And when I discovered he was a fraud, when I tried to address it privately, quietly, they turned on me. Instantly. Completely." Malcolm stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the New York skyline. "That's what they do. They demand absolute loyalty. And the moment you can't give it, for any reason, you're dead to them. Sometimes literally." "Why are you telling me this?" Ali asked, but his voice had lost some of its defensive edge. "Because you're going to face a choice someday. Something will happen. Maybe you'll see the corruption. Maybe you'll want to think for yourself. Maybe you'll just grow up and realize you don't need them anymore. And when that happens, they'll turn on you the way they turned on me." Malcolm turned back from the window. "And I want you to be prepared. I want you to know that what you're feeling right now, the love, the community, the sense of belonging, it's conditional. It only lasts as long as you obey. And the real test of who you are isn't whether you can be loyal when it's easy. It's whether you can think for yourself when it's hard. Ollie sat down heavily on the bed. Some part of him, the part that remembered Malcolm, teaching him, guiding him, believing in him, knew Malcolm was telling the truth. But accepting that truth meant admitting he'd chosen wrong, that he'd betrayed the man who'd done nothing but love him. "What do you want me to do?" Ollie asked quietly. "Nothing. Right now, nothing." Malcolm sat back down. "You're not ready to leave them yet. I can see that. You still believe. And maybe," he smiled sadly, "maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll treat you better than they treated me. Maybe your fame will protect you. Then why tell me this? Because I need you to remember. When it happens, when they turn on you, or when you finally see them clearly, I need you to remember this conversation. Remember that I tried to warn you. Remember that leaving them doesn't make you a traitor. It makes you free." Ollie's eyes filled with tears. "Malcolm, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I chose them over you. I'm sorry I said those things in the interview. I'm sorry." "Stop." Malcolm held up his hand. "You're young. You made the choice you thought was right. I'm not angry with you, Muhammad. I'm just sad. Sad that they've got you so deep that you can't see what I see." He leaned forward, took Ollie's hands, a gesture that would have gotten both of them killed if the nation had seen it. "Muhammad, you're going to be the greatest heavyweight champion in history. I believe that. But more important, you're going to be a great man. A man who stands for principle. A man who sacrifices for truth. I can see it in you, even if you can't see it yet." "How do you know?" "Because underneath all the nation's programming, underneath the fear and the loyalty and the belief, you're still that kid I met in Detroit. The one who asked questions, who thought for himself, who wasn't afraid to be different." Malcolm smiled. "That kid is still in there. And someday, he's going to wake up, and when he does, the nation won't be able to control him anymore." Ollie wiped his eyes. "What if you're right? What if they do turn on me someday? What do I do?" "You do what I did. You walk away. You find your own truth, your own Islam, your own path. And you don't look back." Malcolm paused. "It will cost you. Maybe not your life, like it's costing me. But it will cost you something. Friends, community, identity. But what you gain, your soul, your freedom, your integrity, that's worth any price." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Malcolm stood. "I should go. It's late. And you shouldn't risk being seen with me." Ollie stood too. "Malcolm, about tomorrow. About what you think is going to happen. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe. I'm not wrong." Malcolm's voice was gentle but certain. "I've seen the signs. I know how they operate. Tomorrow at the Audubon Ballroom, I'm giving a speech. And they're going to be there, in the crowd, with guns. And I'm going to die. Then don't go." Ollie's voice broke. "Don't give the speech. Leave New York. Go somewhere safe. There is no safe anymore, Muhammad. They'll find me wherever I go. And I'm tired of running. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. If tomorrow is the day, then tomorrow is the day." He smiled. "I made my peace with it. I've said what I needed to say. I've lived according to my principles. That's all any man can do." Malcolm walked to the door, then turned back one last time. "Remember what I told you tonight. Not now, not tomorrow, but someday when you need it, remember. And don't make the same mistake I made." "What mistake?" "Wasting years of my life serving men instead of truth. I gave Elijah Muhammad my 20s and 30s. Don't give him your entire life, Muhammad. Find your own path, sooner rather than later." Malcolm opened the door, looked both ways down the hallway to make sure no one saw him, and stepped out. Just before the door closed, he said one more thing. "I love you, little brother. I always have. I always will. And I'm proud of you, not for being champion, but for having the courage to become who you're meant to be, even if you don't know who that is yet." The door clicked shut, and that was the last time Muhammad Ali ever saw Malcolm X alive. February 21st, 1965, 3:10 p.m. The Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. Malcolm X stood at the podium, about to begin his speech. The room held about 400 people. His wife, Betty Shabazz, sat in the front row with their 4 daughters. Security was minimal. Malcolm had insisted on keeping things open and welcoming. A commotion in the crowd. Someone shouting. Malcolm's hands raised to calm things down. Then gunfire. 15 shots. Malcolm's body jerking, falling, blood spreading across the stage. Betty Shabazz screaming. Children crying. Chaos and smoke and the sound of Malcolm X dying in front of everyone who'd come to hear him speak. Muhammad Ali was in Miami when he heard, training for his rematch with Sonny Liston. Someone turned on the radio, and the news bulletin came through. Malcolm X, former Nation of Islam minister, assassinated at the Audubon Ballroom. Multiple shooters, likely connected to the Nation of Islam. Ali's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the gym floor. Angelo Dundee, his trainer, thought Ali was having a medical emergency. "Champ, you okay? What's wrong?" But Ali couldn't speak, because 12 hours earlier, Malcolm had warned him, had told him exactly what would happen, had said goodbye. And Ali, young and stupid and loyal to the wrong people, hadn't believed him, hadn't protected him, hadn't even tried to talk him out of going to that speech. "Muhammad, you all right?" Dundee asked again, concerned now. He knew, Ali whispered. He knew they were going to kill him. And he came to see me anyway, to warn me. And his voice broke. I chose them over him. I let him die alone. But Ali couldn't say any of that out loud. Couldn't admit he'd seen Malcolm the night before. Couldn't mourn publicly because the nation was watching, judging, making sure all members showed the proper response to a traitor's death. The nation's official response was celebration. Malcolm got what he deserved, they said. This is what happens to hypocrites and traitors. Members were instructed to show no sympathy, no grief, no acknowledgement that Malcolm had ever been anything but an enemy. And Muhammad Ali, 23 years old, trapped in an organization he was only beginning to understand, terrified of becoming Malcolm's next, said nothing, did nothing, showed nothing. While inside, something broke. For the next 10 years, Muhammad Ali stayed with the Nation of Islam. He followed their rules, obeyed Elijah Muhammad, promoted their message. But Malcolm's warning lived in his head, especially as Ali started seeing the things Malcolm had seen, the corruption, the hypocrisy, the control. In 1975, Elijah Muhammad died, and Ali, finally, began to loosen his ties to the nation. He started studying traditional Islam, meeting with scholars, discovering that the nation's teachings were only one interpretation, and a questionable one. By 1980, Ali had quietly left the nation entirely. He never denounced them publicly, though it would have been too dangerous, but he stopped attending meetings, stopped promoting their message, stopped letting them control his life. Just like Malcolm had predicted. But the guilt about Malcolm never left. In private conversations with friends, Ali would bring it up. "I should have stood by him," he'd say. "He needed me, and I abandoned him. That's the worst thing I ever did." In a 1999 interview, when Ali was 57 years old and Parkinson's had taken most of his voice, he was asked about his biggest regret. He struggled to get the words out. Malcolm X. Not supporting him. He was right about everything, and I was too scared to admit it. The interviewer pressed, "You think you could have saved him?" "No," Ali said. "They were going to kill him no matter what. But I could have been there, could have said publicly that he was right. That would have cost me. But it's what a real man does, a real brother. And I wasn't brave enough." By then, the truth about Malcolm's assassination had come out. The shooters were connected to the Nation of Islam. The FBI had been monitoring Malcolm, but did nothing to stop the assassination. The whole thing was exactly what Malcolm had described that night in the hotel room. A coordinated execution by the organization he'd given his life to. And Muhammad Ali had to live with the knowledge that Malcolm had predicted it all, had warned him, had tried to prepare him. And Ali had been too young, too naive, too indoctrinated to listen. In 2005, 40 years after Malcolm's death, Muhammad Ali attended a ceremony honoring Malcolm X's legacy. Ali was 63 years old, his Parkinson's advanced, his movements limited. But he insisted on being there, on paying respects he should have paid decades earlier. Someone at the ceremony asked him about his relationship with Malcolm. Ali pulled out a prepared statement, written in advance because speaking was too difficult, and had someone read it. "Malcolm X was my brother, my teacher, and my friend. He taught me what it meant to be a Muslim and a black man in America. He believed in me when others didn't. And when he needed me most, I wasn't there for him. I chose institutional loyalty over personal loyalty. I chose fear over courage. And that choice has haunted me every day of my life since. The statement continued. Malcolm told me that someday I'd have to choose between following men and following truth. He said it would be hard, but necessary. And he was right. I eventually made that choice. I left the nation and found my own path in Islam. But I made it too late to tell Malcolm he was right. Too late to thank him. Too late to apologize for abandoning him. If I could go back to that night in February 1965, I would tell Malcolm this. I hear you. I believe you. And I'm standing with you, no matter what it costs. But I can't go back. All I can do is honor his memory by living the principles he tried to teach me. Think for yourself, stand for truth, value integrity over popularity, and never let fear stop you from doing what's right. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm's widow, was at that ceremony. She approached Ollie afterward. She was 70 years old by then, had raised 6 daughters alone after Malcolm's death, had spent 40 years carrying her own grief and anger. She took Ali's trembling hands in hers. Malcolm loved you, she said. He told me that night when he came home from seeing you. He said, Muhammad's going to be fine. He's going to figure it out. It might take him years, but he'll get there. And you did. You got there. Ali's eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but couldn't form the words. Betty understood. He forgave you before you even needed forgiving. He knew you were young. He knew the pressure you were under. He didn't want you to carry guilt. He wanted you to be free. She hugged him. And Muhammad Ali, the man who'd been too afraid to stand with Malcolm in life, finally received the forgiveness he'd spent 40 years needing. The story of Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X is about many things: loyalty, betrayal, courage, fear, growth. But at its core, it's about what happens when you have to choose between safety and truth, between institutional approval and personal integrity. Malcolm X made that choice. He chose truth over the Nation of Islam, even knowing it would cost him his life. And it did. But he died free, authentic, living according to his principles. Muhammad Ali faced the same choice. But at 23, he wasn't ready to make it. He chose safety, chose the approval of the nation over loyalty to Malcolm. And he had to live with that choice for 40 years. But eventually, just as Malcolm predicted, Ali did make the choice. He left the nation, found his own path, became the man Malcolm always knew he could be. It just took him 10 years longer than it should have. That's what makes this story both tragic and hopeful. Tragic because Malcolm died before Ali was brave enough to stand with him. But hopeful because Ali eventually became the man Malcolm believed in, eventually found the courage to think for himself, eventually chose truth over fear. And that's the lesson they teach together. It's never too late to make the right choice. It's never too late to stand for truth. It's never too late to become who you're meant to be. But it is possible to be too late for some things. Too late to save someone. Too late to stand with them. Too late to tell them they were right. Muhammad Ali learned that lesson in the worst possible way. By watching Malcolm X's prophecy come true, by knowing Malcolm had tried to warn him, by carrying 40 years of guilt for choosing wrong. But he also learned that growth is possible. That change is possible. That becoming the person Malcolm believed in, even if it takes decades, is still worth doing. Malcolm X died at 39 years old. Muhammad Ali lived to be 74. And in those extra 35 years, Ali spent a lot of time trying to become the man Malcolm had seen in him that night in the hotel room. The man who thought for himself, who stood for principle, who valued truth over approval, who wasn't afraid to walk away from organizations that demanded blind loyalty. Ali became that man, just not soon enough to tell Malcolm he was right. That's the tragedy. But the triumph is that he became that man at all. That Malcolm's final lesson, his warning, his prophecy, his goodbye, wasn't wasted. It lived in Ali's conscience, guiding him, pushing him, reminding him that real courage means standing for truth even when it's dangerous. Especially when it's dangerous. That's what Malcolm X taught Muhammad Ali on February 20th, 1965, and what Muhammad Ali spent the rest of his life learning to live up to.